Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa and I help people navigate through their mental health journey. And in this video, I'm going to share with you guys 5 signs that your workplace is toxic and that it is time to finally quit. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first sign of a toxic workplace is bad communication. I remember a couple of years ago, I think I was maybe 21 at the time, I was working at a restaurant and a lot of the managers actually exhibited a lot of narcissistic personality traits. I remember a couple of times when we would gather together to have certain meetings right before the start of the shift. There was a lot of passive aggressiveness. There was a lot of sarcasm with the way that some of the managers were talking to me, and there was a lot of belittling and condescending comments whenever I would ask certain questions. I remember in that meeting, while I asked a question, immediately the manager just gave me a very sarcastic and condescending response in front of all of the other staff that was there, and it made me feel like I was dumb. It was something that was occurring many times. It put me in a mental state of constantly trying to find ways to seek the need for approval on their end, and it felt like anything I did to try to get their approval was just never enough. I didn't know it at the time, but that was already a huge indicator, and looking back now, that was something that I wish that I paid more attention to. I wish it was something that I was more aware of. So moving on to number 2, the second sign that you are in a toxic workplace is clicks, exclusion, and gossipy behavior. And this is a very huge red flag. People who spend a lot of their time gossiping, talking down about others, judging others, says a lot about the current state of their mind, and that was pretty much the type of behavior that was happening amongst the staff. The energy that make up your environment really has an impact on your mental health, whether or not it's indirect or direct, and when you take on that kind of energy, it can really bring you down. The third sign that your workplace is toxic is being ridiculed for making mistakes. I think it's important to keep in mind that, we are human. Mistakes do happen, and tying back to what I said about the first one with bad communication, every time we'd gather for meetings, the manager would always end with "don't fuck up," like constantly, "don't fuck up," excuse my language, but every time I would mess up, I would get constantly ridiculed and alienated with everybody, and they made me feel like I was incompetent. When people are projecting that kind of energy at you over and over again, it can really mess up your mental health. I would come into work and constantly feel pressured and feel scared to mess up, and I would come in and constantly say to myself, "Don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up." And then when I'd mess up, it made me feel uncomfortable and I couldn't be happy at work. I was constantly beating myself up. That's just not the kind of mindset that you want to be in when you're at work, right? You want to show up and bring a positive attitude with customers, and I couldn't do that because in the back of my mind, while I was interacting with these customers, I felt like I was being watched and ridiculed and micromanaged. Moving on to number 4, the fourth sign that your workplace is toxic is poor leadership. You can tell a lot about the type of environment that you are working in by who is in charge and who is managing. If you find your boss or someone above you constantly micromanaging you, telling you to do certain things while they're just standing there doing nothing and not actively working as part of a team. I remember a certain instance where I was doing something and the manager called me over and would point to, "Oh, do you see that? Do you see that? Go do that." Constantly feeling pressured and being like you're watched. It can really put you in a state of stress throughout the entire night. So last but certainly not least, and I feel like this is something that is very huge, a huge indicator that the workplace or environment of your workplace is toxic, is constantly feeling unhappy at work. Every time I showed up at work, the moment I stepped in, I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I was a part of a culture. I felt very alienated, felt like nobody liked me, and just the way that they treated me. And deep down, I felt like something was gonna happen. I felt like I needed to leave. I didn't know at the time time, but I was depressed and I didn't even know that I was depressed. Like I wasn't even aware that that was kind of what I was going through. And this actually happened. Like this literally happened. I remember it was around September. I was in nursing school. I had a lab that ended at 3:15. My shift started at 4. I was in my nursing scrub. I remember showing up at work late, and I had already told them that I was going to be late. They pulled me aside, sat me down, and verbatim, I remember it as if it was yesterday, very clear. They said, you know, we've noticed that you've been very sad at work. And before I move on, what I was thinking at that time, I was like, oh my God, like they've noticed. Maybe they are concerned and do care for my well-being. Anyway, they said, so we've noticed that you've been very sad at work and it's actually bringing the entire team down, and so unfortunately because of that we're gonna have to let you go. And once they sat me down and that moment happened, I knew, I was like, this is it. This is what I felt like was going to happen. And luckily enough, I had this feeling for like a good month. I was already in the process of applying for a new job and was being trained at a new restaurant for that, but I didn't know it at the time, but it's actually illegal for an establishment to fire you because of your mental state. When it comes to maximizing the state of your mental health, your environment and the people in it really plays a huge part. If you are working in a place where you don't feel appreciated, where you're constantly being ridiculed, where they are influencing and impacting your confidence in your work and constantly bringing you down, I wish I had known that earlier, and I wish I had paid attention to those red flags. Otherwise I would have left earlier. That's all that I have for you guys today. I know this video was very quick and very short. I hope you enjoyed it. With that being said, I will see you guys next time. Peace, much love, and many blessings to you.